All right, thanks for tuning in again. Once again, it's Ishmael Sistrunk with the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com. Here with our Rams Roundup columnist, Palmer Alexander III. Palmer, this weekend, we watched the St. Louis Rams defeat the Washington Redskins 31-28. A lot of interesting things played out in that game. Tell us what you thought.
Well, one, I told you the Rams were going to win. I expected them to win. I mean, they play with a lot of confidence at home. I was surprised about it. I guess the thing that was exciting to me was that they was down 21-6. And for some reason, you felt like they were still in the game. And the Rams haven't had that edge. They haven't had that attitude since Mike Morris was here, where you felt like they was in every game. And I think you're starting to see, again, this team grow and their confidence continue to brood. I mean, they was pushing, shoving. I mean, when was the last time you saw the Rams mix it up with the opposing team on their sideline? I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm really liking this.
One big thing is that resiliency that we saw. And you're absolutely right. The fans seemed like they knew that the Rams were still in it. Even though the Rams were down with that big deficit, they still played hard. They still came back, and you never felt that they were out the game.
No, I mean, never, not at one point. And I think to a degree you have to go back to the week before in Detroit. I mean, they played in some adverse conditions. Obviously, officiating was poor. And then you're playing on the road. Now you're at home. And you still got to win over the fans because there's still a lot of doubt about who these Rams are, what they're going to be. But they just continue to keep fighting. I mean, play after play on the defense side of the ball. All you saw was Joe Dunbar harassing RG3, chasing him, stepping on him, putting his knee on his neck, getting in his face, telling him about his family heritage. I mean, that's what he was doing, you know what I'm saying? And getting to his head. I mean, he was bloody, he was battered, he was crying, he was whining to the officials. But that's what Jeff Fisher teams do. What about Corley Finnegan? Money well spent. I mean, he got to the head of Josh Morgan, costly penalty, ended up costing him the football game. What about that big hit by, Janoris Jenkins, breaking, Fred Davis in half? He bent over like an accordion. Jeff Fisher teams play pissed off, and you saw that, and it's only going to continue to keep better. And that was just, I'm telling you, Ishmael, it was just exciting to see, and just expect more to come because this team believes it can win every week now.
All right, I'm not going to let you breeze over that comment about the officials, but we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in a minute. First, I want to talk about Sam Bradford, the quarterback. Had an excellent game. He was, 26 for 35, 310 yards, 3 touchdown passes. One of his best games, if not his best game as a pro. And he's doing that against RG3, the guy who the Rams could have drafted to replace him.
Right.
Because of cap and because of, confidence in him, they chose, hey, let's make a deal. But that was an interesting way to look at it going in. RG3 versus Sam Bradford, and Sam Bradford passed with flying colors.
Oh, absolutely. And with Sam Bradford, I kind of felt that he was proving something in that game. It was like with every pass that he threw, even though he threw 16 to Danny Amendola. I mean, 15 out of 16 ain't bad. That's 91%. Okay. I mean, with every pass, with precision, had a little zip on it. He only got sacked once. And even though he knew he should have gave that sack up, the one pick was a bad pick. He knew it was a bad pick. His best throw of the game was probably the pump action where he threw the ball, laid it right into Brandon Gibson for that 34-yard touchdown in the second half. And again, he just played with poise.
Back to the officials, you talked about the play to Gibson that actually was a touchdown. Let's go back to the first half where Gibson caught the pass going out of bounds, scraped his foot. The referees called it out of bounds. For some reason, I don't know why, Jeff Fisher chose not to challenge it.
Yeah.
This team isn't a team that puts up a lot of points. We've been doing a lot better so far this season.
Right.
But to give up that touchdown, later in the game we saw Steven Jackson. First he was called for a fumble, which was overturned by a challenge that Fisher made that he shouldn't have even had to call because it should have been automatic.
Right.
Then the next play, he gets in the end zone. No touchdown call. Again, no challenge. So I don't know what was going on with Jeff Fisher, why he wasn't throwing that challenge flag out. But the officiating in this game was just terrible.
It was just It was just so awful, and just like you said, the Gibson touchdown in the first half, that was as good as it get. I know it was close, but the replay showed it. And was there anybody that was paying attention to the replay? You know, that saw him get his second foot down. He got his toe exactly right inside that line. The Steven Jackson thing, I mean, that was clearly a touchdown. And I don't know why Fisher didn't challenge that. And then, like I was mentioning earlier about the roughness, officials have to get some control of the game or all hell is going to break loose. And it came close to that happening on a couple of occasions.
There's just crazy inconsistency. And like you said, that game got chippy. It got physical. There were a bunch of times where people started, fighting, pushing each other back and forth. And it almost got to the point where it was out of control. I don't mind seeing hard-nosed football with players going at each other a little bit. But that game, it always seemed like it was a play away from just being a big brawl all out. We're going to get some Ron Artest running into the stands type of action if they don't get these officials under control.
No, they don't. And this is all on Roger Goodell. And he should be ashamed of himself. If Roger Goodell should be absolutely ashamed of himself allowing this to happen week in and week out. You cannot get by with replacement officials. The game, everything happens too fast. Okay, and some of these guys, they just learn the rules and the interpretation of the rules. These officials, Ishmael been in the league 20 some odd years. They know the rules. I mean, if we're talking maybe 40, 50 grand, you telling me that Roger Goodell, the NFL can't afford to pay them that? I mean, this is big time. I mean, somebody's going to get hurt really bad because these officials are too scared to make a call when they might need to, or throw a flag, or settle some of this stuff down that's going on in the field, because you don't want nobody to get hurt.
This week it was a disaster. The Monday night game, the Saints game, the Rams game. I mean, it was just chaos all over. So Roger Goodell and his guys, they need to do something. They need to get these officials back. Because like you said, these officials, they're just recently trained. A lot of them are coming from high school, or they're coming from lower level D1 or D2. So these aren't even, the silver medal officials, where you got the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10 officials. Those guys are keeping their jobs. These are lower level guys, and they're just coming in and getting a late start. And it's just chaos. If they don't get it corrected quickly, we're going to see injuries happening because of it. We're going to see fights happening because of it. And it's just going to be chaos. All right, so Palmer, of course we saw the situation with Steven Jackson, a lot of conspiracy theories going on. After the, fake fumble that we talked about that got reversed in the touchdown that didn't happen, Steven Jackson spiked the ball in the end zone, got a penalty on it, personal foul, and that was the last we saw him in the game. The Rams are saying he had a groin injury, that they were worried about. Do you buy that? Was he benched or was he injured?
Sure, it was a groin injury. I mean, you know what? It could have been a groin injury, and I guess we'll leave it at that because, they won. He had a positive attitude about it. Fisher debunked the whole theory. He was benching him. But if he did bench him, he sent a message to Steven, and he sent a message to everybody that nobody has carte blanche around here. And if that's what it was, I think it was a stroke of genius.
It was definitely a power move. The coach saying, hey, nobody is bigger than the law here. We don't do that here. The only thing that I question with Fisher not necessarily backing up his players by throwing that challenge flag. It seemed like he benched his flag that day too. I don't know what the flag did to him, the challenge flag, but that was seen on the bench right next to Steven, sitting down there. All right, going forward, next week the 1-1 Rams are going to Chicago to face the Bears, who are also 1-1. How do you see that one going?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna pick the Rams to win, and one of the main reasons why, again, they're gonna have some momentum coming off this win. But there's a little bit of turmoil going on in Chicago. The Bears recently lost to Green Bay 23-10, and Jay Cutler had some issues with his offensive line. Cursing his offensive lineman out. He was sacked 5 times, and the Rams are an opportunistic defense, and we saw what Joe Dunbar can do, and we saw what Laurinaitis can do. You saw what Robert Quinn can do, and his team is steady getting better. And don't think for 1 minute that they're not going to go after Jay Cutler. Don't think they're not going to go after that, that offensive line who is a little bit aggravated. And I think to a degree too, as a quarterback, you don't want to really make your offensive lineman angry because they might just miss a block on purpose.
Now, what do you think about? The Rams thus far have tried to make their identity as a tough, hard-nosed team, in the eyes of Jeff Fisher. Chicago has long been, they've had that reputation for being a tough, hard-nosed team. So do you think the Rams will be able to go in there and impose their will on the Bears outside?
Oh, absolutely. The Rams will be able to play their game in Chicago. The Bears are just not the Bears are a good team, but the Bears could be better. The Bears are lacking in a lot of areas, and I think that the Rams could be able to play with them, and not just them, but they could play with just anybody because they believe that they can, and they definitely are buying to Jeff Fisher's message. So it really wouldn't matter where you play. I think that the Detroit game was a great test playing indoors, and I think that they'll be fine playing out there in Chicago. And you know something else? I think this is the game where Steven Jackson just goes nuts. I think that, like we say, maybe the mock controversy about the growing, but I think that with Richardson having that outstanding game that he had and the big run that he broke off, Steven wasn't having a bad game either. He was well on his way to 100 yards. But I see this is going to want to be one of the big breakout games for Steven Jackson. I look for him to have a great game, get over 120 yards. I just wouldn't be surprised because I think he's such a competitor. And Daryl Richardson is just a humble, nice young man. He's just trying to do a good job and help the team win. But Steven still wants people to know this is still my team. And he still wants to be able to put that team, put the Rams on his back. And so I think that's another reason why the Rams are going to come out big against Chicago.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it necessarily has to do with Richardson. Of course, it felt great to watch him step in there and have a very good game as the backup. But I think this is going to be basically aimed at Jeff Fisher. Not animosity, but like you said, Steven Jackson is a competitor. Steven Jackson's a leader. And Steven Jackson runs hard anytime he gets the football.
Right.
But coming off this benching, that he's going to come out to make a point.
Yes.
A point. And the Chicago Bears defense is going to pay for that, and I think if he does get a big game, like you say, 120 yards or so, when he gets in that end zone, I think he's going to glance over to the sidelines like, take me out today. All right, well, thanks again for tuning in once again. I'm Ishmael Sistrunk with the St. Louis American and STLAmerican.com. Here with Palmer Alexander. Again, the Rams win against the Redskins 31-28. This week, we're both picking them to beat the Chicago Bears. Make sure you tune in and let us know what you think.